Hello and welcome back to the Nest and Inside the Iggles live show. Thank you guys very much for joining me on today. What day is today? Monday, January 29th. And the Super Bowl's canceled. We're not doing it this year. There's just not going to be one. Everything that could go wrong yesterday, the fun options, the only good options for us, um, they're gone, which sucks. First, we had the Ravens losing to the Chiefs. The Chiefs didn't beat the Ravens. The Ravens lost to the Chiefs. Zay Flowers, he's an idiot. Why did you do that? You're dumb. You're dumb, and you did that. You're a rookie. That was dumb, and you did that. It is. I'm not a taunting. I'm not a taunting guy. That was taunting. Stupid. That was so stupid. And then that directly led to him getting the ball punched out because he reached for the goal line on a play that wasn't a fourth down. Don't do that, stupid. He got the ball punched out by the guy that he taunted. So he got that. He got what was coming to him. I don't know, man. That game sucked. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Nobody wants that. But here we are. And then later on, we're like, okay, maybe the Lions can do this, and things are going well. Things are going great. I had all the memes queued up. I had all the memes queued up. I had all of them, and then the second half happened, and God damn it, man, what the hell happened? Why did I understand Dan Campbell's going to go for it? The man's a maverick. The guy's a loose cannon. He's going to go for it, but he always goes for it on fourth down. I'm surprised he didn't do like a fake punt on his own 20 or something like that. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised by that. But that went bad. Turns out Josh Reynolds can't catch. Jahmyr Gibbs is a rookie in the playoffs, can't hold on to the ball. I don't know. Everything went bad. So now the Super Bowl 58 is the 49ers and the Chiefs, and I don't want it. Nobody wants this. This is awful. In a way, in an attempt to skew my brain to mess with the little pieces of shit that I got inside my skull. Here's my thought. We don't want either of these teams to win, but somebody's going to win. But one of these teams is going to lose. One of these teams is going to lose. They have to lose. Somebody has to lose. And I started thinking of that because I saw somebody put on Twitter a video of Nick Bosa crying on the sideline after they lost in 2019. I was like, oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I like seeing him cry. So then I was like, okay, somebody's gonna cry. Somebody on one of these teams that I don't like is gonna cry. So that's where we're at. I don't know, man. It sucked. I was going through it last night. Like I had the dumbass thought in my head. I was like, you know what? I just want there to be a worse team. I want there to be like again, I don't actually mean this, but I had the stupid thought in me trying to cope in my dipshit head. I thought to myself, you know what? I wish the Cowboys were in the Super Bowl so I could just root against them. But that's dumb. I don't want that. Nobody wants that to happen. But it's just like they're two bad guys. They're two bad guys, and nobody. I don't know, man. It sucks. But somebody's got to lose, and we're gonna see somebody that we don't like cry, and that's good. That's good. Be the bad guy now. Embrace the chaos. Root for crying grown men. That's what I'm asking for. I don't know. So now we get to spend 2 weeks listening to Super Bowl media, just absolutely just tugging off Brock Purdy, saying that he's elite because he ran a couple times. We get that. We get everybody just going to town on Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs. They didn't even play good. They didn't even play. The Ravens lost that game, dude. The Chiefs got shut out in the second half again. That's like the third time this season they've got shut out in the second half, and then they go to the Super Bowl for it. It's so stupid and dumb and infuriating. We just got done with the most dominant franchise being a dynasty in the history of sport with the Patriots. We just got done with that. We don't want another one. This was not a void. There wasn't a void for a dynasty. We don't need one. We don't need one. And then now we're getting one, and it sucks, dude. It sucks. So that's where I'm at mentally. It's just me today. It's just your boy today. So we got some news. We got some news on Saturday night at about midnight, 11 o'clock, whatever time it was. The Eagles officially hired Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. So the coordinator positions are filled. Coordinator positions are filled. Last year it was Brian Johnson and a Sean Desai, Matt Patricia mind meld. We had that. That sucked. A bunch of rookie play callers. This year it's going to be Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, two guys that we know can actually call plays and can do it at a high level. So that is good. That is a good thing. As far as Kellen Moore, initially my thought when somebody throws out the idea, what if Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator, I've plagued my mind. I'm like, Cowboys offense, I don't like him. We don't like that. Whenever a Cowboy comes into Philly, we're like, oh, this guy gets looks in the locker room. We're like, this guy, we don't like this guy. This guy sucks. We don't want him. But let's take advantage of that year of separation from the Cowboys. This is just a Chargers guy. This is just a guy coming from the Chargers. Yeah, he has a sordid past. We're not going to pay attention to his sordid past. He came from the Chargers. Shane Steichen came from the Chargers. Let's think about it like that. Let's twist our dumb minds like that. Let's be dumb that way. This is Kellen Moore, the Chargers offensive coordinator, not whatever the hell he came from before. So I'm trying to think about it like that, and I'm thinking about it more positively. As far as Kellen Moore goes, all right, so Kellen Moore offense, there are going to be a lot of changes. And we know this is going to be a Kellen Moore offense because of what I believe to be true based off of what happened at that postseason press conference, and then also what Peter Schrager said, is that the selling point for this offense is that the offensive coordinator is going to be the head coach of the offense. You're going to be able to bring in your offense, bring in your guys, and let's see if it works. So I believe that it is actually going to be true that this is not going to be a Nick Sirianni offense. This is going to be a Kellen Moore offense. And with a Kellen Moore offense, again, very different than what we saw with Nick Sirianni the last 2 years, specifically last year, because in 2022, it was brand stinking fresh. That's why it was exploding. That's why everything was working, because it's fresh. People didn't know how to beat that offense. Then they spent all offseason finding out what they could take away from the Eagles offense, finding out a way to beat the offense, while Nick Sirianni just said, we're going to do what we did. We're just going to do it better. No new wrinkles. And then it didn't work in 2023. So with a Kellen Moore offense, we're actually going to see motion. All right. And I know that's not like saying a whole lot, because the Eagles were last in the NFL in motion rate. They're 32nd out of 32 teams in motion rate. Kellen Moore last year, 8th in motion rate. So it's not just going to be like going from a no motion to some. It'll be a top 10, probably a top 10 motion rate kind of an offense. So that's a good thing. And it's not just motioning just to motion, just to say that you did it. It's actually motioning for a reason. And it's the reason, which is to confuse defenses and then get a pre-snap leverage, like creating that pre-snap leverage with the motion. Like that's what it's there for. And to be fair, Kellen Moore's good at that. Okay. He's in his career. Let me see. I have this written down. As a offensive coordinator, he's been offensive coordinator for 5 years. 4 years from 2019 to 2022 with the Cowboys, and then 2023 with the Chargers. All right. In those years, offensive DVOA wise, he was ranked 2nd, 24th, 4th, 14th, and 16th. And what's good about that is that those bad rankings, the him being ranked 24th in offensive DVOA, him being ranked 14th in offensive DVOA, and him being ranked 16th in offensive DVOA, those are kind of easy to figure out. Those are easy to figure out. In 2020, Cowboys were ranked 24th in offensive DVOA. They had no Dak Prescott. They were doing whatever the hell else they were doing. The Andy Dalton, was Cooper Rush part of that too? I can't remember. I don't want to think about it. But they were doing that. If he has a starting quarterback like he did in 2019 and 2021, and then kind of in 2023, you're going to be able to see. And I guess that was the thing in 2022. The 14th, he had just some Dak Prescott, and they ranked 14th. In 2023, like I said, he had Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert was banged up. I can't remember if he actually missed games or if that finger. I can't remember what the hell Justin Herbert's whole thing is. I'm kind of glad that I don't think about Justin Herbert that often. But the point is that with those years where they didn't perform well, it's easy to sort out why that happened. We actually saw Jalen Hurts start in every single game this year. that's a big thing because previous 2 years he didn't. We get a healthy Jalen Hurts for the entire season, we're going to be good. I believe the whole thing with these two coordinators is that the floor has been raised. With the Vic Fangio offense, you're not going to have a terrible offense. You might not have the best offense, but you're not going to have or defense. Sorry, with Vic Fangio, you're not going to have the worst defense. You might not have the best defense, but you're not going to have the worst, and that's good. On defense, that's good. Like I always say, average defense can win you Super Bowls. As far as Kellen Moore goes, it's kind of tried and true. You're not getting one of these young guys with these newfangled ideas. We've seen that Kellen Moore can be successful. We've seen that he can have a good offense. Did he make it deep into the playoffs? No, because it's the Cowboys that he was with. It was the Cowboys that he was with, and they always choke in the playoffs. They always do that. That's what they do. So it's kind of another thing where it's kind of easy to sort out where Kellen Moore's shortcomings are. So that's a good thing. Another thing with Kellen Moore, and I'm trying to parse this out in my head. So I'm gonna try to think about this out loud real quick. So Kellen Moore, if you're a big eat a hoagie, yell at the TV, and just yelling run the ball. If you're the guy out there and you were the guy with the trash can in front of the NovaCare complex that had the trash can that said run the ball, I got bad news for you. Kellen Moore is not exactly a run the ball kind of guy. Very much a throwing guy, which is what Howie and Jeffrey Lurie want. So there's that. But on the other part of that, he's never had Jalen Hurts type quarterback. Yeah, Dak Prescott could run. Not Jalen Hurts run. So I think that there's going to be a significant uptick in the quarterback run game. And hopefully it's not, and I say hopefully, it damn well better not be that stupid QB draw just to say that we ran. It better not be that kind of a thing. But I think that we're actually going to be able to see some production with Jalen Hurts' legs, kind of like what we haven't really seen before. Maybe not necessarily the RPO stuff, but maybe some design stuff. So I think that while he has not had the most dominant QB or dominant run game in the past, I think that there is potential for that to be a significant chunk of this offense, because he's also never had Jeff Stoutland as his run game coordinator. And we know that Jeff Stoutland's good at that as long as the Eagles don't ignore him. So I think that that's a good thing. The other thing with Kellen Moore, or I say another thing with Kellen Moore. I want to talk about 2 tight end packages. Okay. So that would be a 12 personnel or a 22 personnel. What that means when you're talking about personnel packages, the first number is the number of running backs. The second number is the number of tight ends. So 12 personnel is 1 running back, 2 tight ends. 22 personnel is 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. And then you'd fill in the rest with the wide receivers. So Kellen Moore. All right. I should start with this. The Eagles in the Nick Sirianni offense in 2022 and 2023. Package or the 12 personnel usage, the usage that the personnel where the Eagles have 2 tight ends on the field. In 2022, they had 12 personnel 21% of the time. In 2023, they had 12 personnel 22% of the time. Kellen Moore is very heavy on 2 tight end packages. In 2019, he had 24%, then 2020, 32%, then 39%, then 31%. And then with the Chargers, he did it 29%. So on average there, we're talking the Eagles doing 12 personnel 21.5% of the time. And for the Kellen Moore offenses, 21 personnel 30% of the time. So that 2 tight end package is going to be very important. That's kind of my point here. And if we're talking about 2 tight end packages, obviously it's going to be Dallas Goedert. And then the second one would be Jack Stoll, which is somebody that we don't have the most faith in. When Jack Stoll does something good, yeah, it's good. But we're going to need to upgrade that. And that's where the history of the Eagles drafting tight ends comes into play. In the 2023 draft, that was after Dallas Goedert's 5th year in the league. The Eagles drafted Dallas Goedert after Zach Ertz's 5th year in the league. So going into the last draft, I was thinking that the Eagles were going to draft a tight end because it made sense. That's when that's the point in Dallas Goedert's career where if it was Zach Ertz's career, they would draft Dallas Goedert. You get what I'm saying. I'm kind of muddling my words, but you get what I'm saying. It was the same point in time in the tight end's career that they drafted the next tight end. So I thought last year they were going to draft a guy that would end up replacing Dallas Goedert. That did not happen. This year, I think that that's a even higher chance. Not just given the fact that Dallas Goedert's getting older, the fact that Dallas Goedert's gotten hurt. Well, this year was a freak. The last 2 years were kind of freak accidents, but they happened. They happened. Dallas Goedert did get hurt. So this year, with a personnel package with 2 tight ends being I would an assumedly bigger part of the offense, potentially 10% bigger part of the offense, which is a big part. You would think that they're going to draft a tight end. Now, I know Brock Bowers is obviously the guy from Georgia, the tight end from Georgia. That's a guy that a lot of people that guy, he's going to go in the first round. He's going to go in the first round. The guy's phenomenal. He's going to go in the first round. There are a few other guys. I know the next best guy that people are putting on their draft boards is the dude from Texas. I can't remember his name, but just keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out when you're looking at draft stuff. Keep an eye out on tight ends because there's a good chance that the Eagles will probably, I would say a good chance. The chances are higher relative to other years that the Eagles will draft a tight end. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense. I feel like kind of the gist of what I'm saying with that is that Kellen Moore likes running packages with 2 tight ends. The Eagles don't exactly have the best second tight end. Dallas Goedert's getting older. They're going to need to do something with that second tight end. That's my point here. That's my point. Other things with Kellen Moore, had a note here about why the Cowboys got rid of him. I don't necessarily believe it was because Kellen Moore, like why, because that's an important thing to know, is why why anybody leaves a team, why any team separates themselves, whether it's a player, GM, coach, anybody. Why would the team separate from them? Obviously, he's separated from the Chargers because they're changing everything there. Jim Harbaugh is going in. Jim Harbaugh is going to clean house. He's going to just rebuild. That's what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, is rebuild a team. So obviously, they're going to get rid of Kellen Moore. Before that, he left the Cowboys. Why did he leave the Cowboys? They needed a change there. And the change that could be made on offense, Dak Prescott was contractually, you can't get rid of Dak Prescott after the 2022 season. They couldn't. It would be foolish for them to do that. It'd be a huge waste of money. They'd trade whatever. The easier guy to get rid of was going to be Kellen Moore. I believe that's why they got rid of him. They wanted we saw last year with Mike McCarthy took over the play calling. He said that in the offseason. He's like, yeah, I'm going to run the ball a whole bunch because that's what Jerry Jones wanted him to do. And then running the ball didn't work so well for him. So then they started throwing the ball, and that worked out really well for them. So it worked out well for the Cowboys that they moved away from Kellen Moore. I don't believe that they moved away from Kellen Moore because he was doing a bad job. Like when the Eagles got done with Andy Reid, it was just time. It was just time for them to part ways. That's kind of just how it was. At that point, I believe Kellen Moore had been with the Cowboys. Let's see. He was a player. He was a backup quarterback for the Cowboys from 2015 to 2017. Then he moved straight into being the quarterback's coach. And then he was the offensive coordinator for 4 years. So what's that? 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 8 years that he spent with the Cowboys. It was just time for them to part ways because things weren't happening. And Jerry Jones is never going to blame himself for their absolute pathetic performances in the playoffs. So he's got to blame somebody else. Why not get rid of Kellen Moore? Hell, that's what the Cowboys, or that's what the Eagles just did with Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson was a problem, not the problem, but the easier move is to get rid of an offensive coordinator, bring in Kellen Moore, experienced play caller. I think I'm becoming a fan of this, what could happen with this Kellen Moore offense. On the other side of that, there's a reason, and admittedly not a good one. Some of like the breakdowns of like his film and stuff, not by like the film of like Kellen Moore's like schemes and stuff, probably not by the most reputable people. I saw just like some dude who's a fan of the Chargers that was like creaming his Dockers over what the Kellen Moore offense could look like in in LA, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, Justin Herbert's not going to miss that throw. Dak Prescott's not going to miss that, or Dak Prescott will miss that throw. Justin Herbert would never do that." Can you imagine what it would look like if we had Austin Eckler running this instead of Tony Pollard? That guy's sad now. That's just a sad dude now. That guy, I don't remember what the dude's name was, whose film I was watching, his breakdown. He had some good points on like some of the scheming and the routes and some of the blocking concepts and stuff like that, and the play calling and that kind of thing, the sequencing. Yeah, he had good points there, but it was very funny watching him have his hopes up for the Chargers for seemingly no reason. So that was I do take a lot of joy watching other people be sad. Again, one of the teams in the Super Bowl has to lose, so that's what we're going to hang our hat on there. Did I have anything else on Kellen Moore? One of his, if you wanted to think of a negative for Kellen Moore, because we don't want to just be like, oh, all of this is positive. He sometimes he can overcomplicate things. He can be scheming the ball to get to like not the best player. A lot of times we like specifically in 2022, we saw plays where we know that the Eagles had A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts. All these guys are playmakers, but then they would scheme plays specifically for Kenny Gainwell. It's like, why the hell did we do that? So it's not necessarily anything new that we're looking at that could be a bad thing. It's just not a fix to a potential problem. Kellen Moore has he can do things where like in 2022 the Cowboys had Dalton Schultz and then Jake Ferguson, and then every once in a while Kellen Moore would get a play to go to Jake Ferguson. It's like, why the hell would you do that, stupid? That's a dumb thing to do. You want to make sure you're getting the ball to your best people. So that's just something he can do. I'm sure there are other things that when I look more into it, I'll be able to give you guys some more information on some negative things about Kellen Moore. I'm pretty good at finding the negative side of things. I kind of hang my hat on that. Let's see. One more thing is that we know that Kellen Moore can scheme plays, make it so wide receivers are open and the throw needs to go in the middle of the field. That's something we haven't seen Jalen do a lot of, and I believe that's kind of a scheme thing. If Jalen wants to have a meeting with Kellen Moore and say, I need plays to be able to go into the middle of the field, I think that's going to be kind of I think Kellen Moore will be able to do that, and that'll be on Jalen to be able to make those plays. And I think that's a good thing. I believe in Jalen Hurts. I believe in Jalen Hurts if he's running an offense, a good offense, and not a stale one, which is a quote directly from the team. I believe in him. I believe that he'll be able to do this. This is not the kind of offense where the coaches are going to be like, this is the decision. You make this read, and then this is where you go with the ball. I believe that a Kellen Moore offense is going to put more of the onus on Jalen Hurts, which is a good thing. He's very smart. Every single year that he has something bad go wrong with it, he comes back, and that's the strongest part of his game. I think that this year we're going to be able to see a lot more of Jalen Hurts making the decisions himself, and that's what I want to see. So I think the benefits kind of outweigh the cons with Kellen Moore. Whatever it is, when we're thinking of the new offensive and defensive coordinator for this Eagles team, it's an upgrade. That's the bottom line. What the Eagles have done with the Vic Fangio and with the Kellen Moore hires, they've upgraded from that last year, and that is huge. We know that this team is incredibly talented. We know that. If they can upgrade these schemes, well, at least the offense is. If we can upgrade these schemes, you're going to be able to let the talent shine more. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line for that. As far as defense goes, some other news, like we know, we saw Vic Fangio get hired. The Eagles have, this is per Tom Pelissero on Twitter. This is the tweet. The Eagles are expected to hire former Seahawks defensive coordinator Clint Hurt as their D-line coach per sources. Sweeping staff changes continue under Nick Sirianni, who is also expected to hire one of Hurt's assistants in Seattle, Carl Scott, to coach defensive backs. I believe that that's a good thing too. One of the biggest reasons is purely physical. That's Clint Hurt. That's a guy. That's our defensive, that's our D-line coach now. This hunk right here, this guy, this leviathan of a man, this behemoth This is the defensive coordinator. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Physically, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm all in. And then on top of that, anytime you can get, and this is, I have no basis to go off of this for, but if you can get a defensive coordinator to be to downgrade to a position coach, I'll take that. If you can get a head coach to downgrade to a coordinator, I'll take that as well. That's just a general rule of thumb for me. There's no basis on that. It just kind of feels good. It just kind of feels good to say that. Like we saw, Steve Spagnuolo was the Rams head coach, and now he's a good defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Is there any connection to those two things? Probably not, but it feels kind of good to say. So Clint Hurt is the new Eagles defensive line coach. Carl Scott was the Seahawks secondary coach and passing game coordinator last year. I kind of think I like this. I think I kind of like this. If for any other reason, what happens when coaches change teams, like we saw with and he was a free agent, he was just on a 1-year deal, but we saw from 2022 to 2023, Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis go to Arizona. Kaiser White goes with them. Okay, players will follow coaches sometimes. So when we're looking at that, we want to kind of look at some of the free agents on that Seattle team that could potentially come to the Eagles, specifically in areas of need. And I would say probably hands down, depending on hands down, I would say the Eagles, obviously their areas of need: linebacker, safety, cornerback. Depending on Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, you could talk me into defensive line and edge rusher. But as far as linebackers, corners, and safeties that are free agents from Seattle, we're looking at Bobby Wagner. We're looking at Devin Bush. We're looking at Jordan Brooks. Artie Burns doesn't really do a whole lot for me. Michael Jackson. You always like a Michael Jackson unless you don't like Michael Jackson. And then John Radigan, that also doesn't do a whole lot for me. So kind of the bigger ones that I'm looking at there are the Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner, and Michael Jackson. Those are some guys. If you're looking at guys who could potentially make their way towards this Eagles team, those are 3 names that I would kind of look out for. Again, any of those guys, whether it be Wagner, Bush, Brooks, Burns, Jackson, or Radigan, probably going to be an upgrade over what we saw from the Eagles this year. None of those guys are safeties, by the way. Some other guys, I saw somebody said this. Patrick Surtain. All right, we know Patrick Surtain is great. Carl Scott was a coach at Alabama. Patrick Surtain, Alabama. Could Patrick Surtain follow Carl Scott? Probably not, but it could happen. It's a non-zero. It's a non-0% chance of that happening. Quandre Diggs is a guy from Seattle. I believe he's a safety. Quandre Diggs is safety in Seattle. We're probably going to need safety help given the kind of the up in the airness of Sidney Brown and Kevin Byard's a tremendous disappointment. Quandre Diggs is a guy that Slay has been actively trying to recruit to the Eagles. Having a defensive coordinator from Seattle and a defensive backs coach coming to Eagles probably makes that a little bit more enticing for Quandre Diggs to come to Philly. So that would be good. I saw people saying maybe Reek Woolen, maybe, but I would not probably hang my hat on that. Again, if it did happen, that's an upgrade. So a lot of these things are upgrades. On that same note of players following a coach, we need to look at Miami as well. Miami is a little bit less enticing than Seattle's secondary. I know Xavier, who's that? Xavier Woods. Maybe he could. He's not a free agent, but the free agents on Miami, looking at Nick Needham, corner, Deshaun Elliott, safety, Eli Apple's a corner. Yuck. No, thank you, Eli Apple. Justin Bethel, Brandon Jones is a safety, Elijah Campbell, Calvin Munson. And then also Andrew Van Ginkel is an edge rusher. He's a free agent as well. I'd say if Brandon Graham doesn't come back, which I think he probably will, because the Eagles will be able to get him for cheap. Either way, Andrew Van Ginkel is a good add to a team. He's the white guy with long hair. I think he's a good, if you're looking to kind of like think who the hell is that guy. That's who that is. So I think that could also be a good addition too. But that's just one of these things when the Eagles are filling out this coaching staff, whether it be like the Clint Hurt, the Carl Scott, the Vic Fangio, maybe Kellen Moore brings somebody from the Chargers. Who knows? We saw when Nick came here, he got Zach Pascal. So people will follow coaches sometimes. So it's just something to take a look at. Keep that kind of stuff in mind, specifically when we're talking about the Eagles filling in the rest of their coaching staff. Other than that, let's see. What's his name? Alex Tanney, the QB coach, Jalen's QB coach, has requested to interview for other jobs, which is good for me. I like that. With regression on the offense and regression for Jalen, I would say objective regression for Jalen. I don't think anybody in the world is looking at Jalen's 2023 season and saying that he didn't regress. But get the coach out. Get the coach out. You got a new offensive coordinator. Get the coach in, especially with Kellen Moore being a quarterback himself and being a quarterback-centric offensive coordinator. I think that's a good thing. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I'm not entirely sure there is. Let's see. We talked about new defensive coaches. We talked about Kellen Moore's DVOA, his uses of 12 personnel, and kind of some of the benefits of him. Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me on this Monday night. Did a shorter show, but I think we kind of covered a lot here. Hopefully I made it concise enough. I know I got a little bit kind of mind boggled there with talking about the drafting of a tight end. The 12 personnel I know can be a little bit finicky and a little bit hard to understand. I have something written up about all this. So if any of this didn't make sense, if you want to go back and read it, I'll have something up about kind of the changes that we'll see on the offense on InsideTheIggles.com. I'll have that up either today or tomorrow or the next day. I probably won't have it up tonight because it's kind of late. But that's where we're at. Again, thank you guys very much for joining me on this Monday night. This has been The Nest. My name is Jake Beckman. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. And a team's got to lose the Super Bowl, and we got to be happy about that. We can't find joy anywhere else than a grown man's tears. Y'all have a good night. Go Birds.